Hello everyone, welcome back to Biotech Hub. We are continuing with our research and methodology series. In this part, we'll discuss about data collection methods. So let's dive in.
So, data collection method basically is referring to the technique or the process that is used to gather the data for our research purposes. And the choice of the data collection method will depend on the research objective, the study design, the population, characters, the available resources, and their ethical considerations. The common methods for data collections are surveys. So we can conduct survey. Like surveys will involve some administrating questionnaires or the interviews to collect the data from the individual or the group. And survey can be conducted in a person by a phone call or maybe through a mail or online source. And the a survey advantage of using survey for data collection is that it is versatile, it is cost effective, it allows for a efficient collection of a larger amount of data, and they can be used to gather the information on the attitude, the opinion, the behavior, and demographics also. But the limitations, survey also gives us the limitation that the response rate may be low, and the data quality can be affected by the respondent bias or misunderstanding of that question. Next, we have the method of interviews. So interviews basically involve the direct interaction between the researcher and the participant. So it will allow some in-depth of exploration of that particular topic and that clarification of that research and their responses towards the questions. So the advantage of conducting an interview for data collection is that it will enable the researcher to gather the detail and complex data, exploring the issues and exploring all the issues with the participants. But interview can be a limiting factor with the fact that it is time consuming and resource consuming. So the data collection may be influenced by the interviewer biasing also towards the participant. Next, observations. So observation method will involve systematically watching over and recording the behavior, the events, or the phenomena in natural and in controlled settings. So observation will provide us the first hand information on the behavior in the real world context, which will allow the researchers to study the behavior as it naturally occurs. But the limitations will be that the observer bias may affect the data collection, and the observation may be time consuming or impractical for studying a certain kind of phenomena. Next, experiments. So experiments will involve manipulating one or more of the variables and then measuring the effect on other variables under some control conditions. Now experiments will allow the researcher to establish some cause and effect of the relationship between the variable and control for other factors. But experiment may be a resource intensive, or they may not allow a reflect of real world conditions, and ethical consideration may limit the type of experiments that can be conducted. Next, we have document analysis. So document analysis involves examining of the written and the recorded material, such as textbooks, historical documents, to extract the data. Now document analysis will provide us access to the existing data sources, the historical recordings. It will allow to study the trends, the policies, and other artifacts also. But the data analysis, there may be a limitation that the availability or the quality of the document with respect to subject may not be appropriate for interpretations. Now mixed method approaches. So mixed method approaches combine multiple data collection methods within a single study only, which allow the researchers to triangulate the findings and gain a more comprehensive understanding of the research topic. So mixed method approach leverages the strength of the different data collection methods, providing a richer and a more and a more insight of that topic. But mixed method approach may be a complex thing, maybe a complex method to design and implement, and it will require quality and it will require integration of all the data that has been collected through multiple sources in quality as well as in quantity. Now, questionnaire. So questionnaire is a research instrument which is used to collect the data from individuals or the groups by presenting them with a series of questions. So questionnaire can be administered in various formats, including paper-based surveys, online survey, or face-to-face interviews as well. So what are the key components and consideration when we are designing a questionnaire? So first of, introduction. So the introduction should provide a brief overview of the purpose of your questionnaire and instructions for completing it, and any necessary information about confidentiality or data usage. Then demographic information. So it should include the questions to collect demographic information about the respondent, such as its age, gender, or education level, occupation, income. And this information help you to categorize the sample and analyze the data by subgrouping it. And then comes our main question. So the main body of the questionnaire consists of the questions to gather data on the research topic, and these questions should be clear, concise, and relevant to your research objective. So questions may be open ended, allowing the respondent to provide a free text response, or it could be a close ending question which is providing a set of predefined response options. And close ended questions may include multiple choices, Likert scales, or rating scale format as well. Then we have order and structure. So the organized questions logically and sequentially, they should guide the respondent through the questionnaire smoothly, and uh, the start with a simple or a non-threatening question to engage the respondent, and gradually progress to more complex or sensitive topics. And then the group related question together to be maintained in a flow. Next, the clarity and the simplicity of the questionnaire. So, using a clear and a very simple language to ensure that the questions are easily understood by the respondent. Avoid technical terms or or terms that may confuse or mislead the respondents. The pilot test the questionnaire with with the small sample of the participant to identify any issue with the clarity or comprehension. Then response option. So provide response option that cover a range of possible answers to each of the question, and ensure that the response option are mutually exclusive, and collectively response options are mutually exclusive. Use a balanced response scale and avoid introducing biasing through the wording or order of response options. And then length. So keeping the questionnaire focused to minimize the respondent fatigue and to increase the completion rate, and stick to a balance between collecting sufficient data and respecting the respondent time and attention. Consider using skip logic or branching to customize the questionnaire based on respondents answer, and streamlining the survey experience. Next, formatting and presentation. So use consistent formatting, font style, and colors to enhance the readability and the visual appeal of that questionnaire, and break up the long blocks of text with the headings, subheadings, or some visual elements to improve the navigation. And you can also ensure that the questionnaire is compatible with the chosen mode of administration, and test for usability and functionality. Pre-testing and validation. So pilot test the questionnaire with a smaller amount of participants, so that you can ensure any wording, any response pattern error that has been occurring. Or you can uh, conduct for validity and reliability assessment to ensure that the questionnaire measures what is intended to measure and it produces a consistent result over a period of time. Then comes the ethical considerations. So the questionnaire should ensure that it follows ethical guidelines and it protects the rights of the respondent and obtain the information consent from the participant before administering the questionnaire and provide assurance of any confidentiality. So by following all these guidelines or all these key components, keeping in consideration, a researcher can design and implement a questionnaire that can effectively gather the data to address its research question and contribute to the advancement of the knowledge in their field. Then comes the interviews. So interviews are valuable data collection techniques. So it will allow the researcher to and it's a one-on-one interaction between the researcher and the participant. So it will gather a rich and a in-depth information directly from the participant without creating any sort of confusion. So what are the guidelines for conducting an effective interview for data collection? First of all, defining the objective. So the objective of our interview, the research questions that we are aiming to address based on what is our research and what is the main objective of our interview. Then choosing an interview format. So choosing an interview format. So determining what is the appropriate format that the format will based on what kind of research and what is the nature of our study. So, common format may include some structured, a semi-structured, or maybe an unstructured interview. Then, developing interview guide. Creating an interview guide that can outline the main topic or theme to be covered during the interview. It should include open-ended question that allows the participant to respond in depth so that we can analyze the response. Then, active listening. So, practicing of active listening throughout the interview, paying close attention to the interviewer's response and non-verbal clues, encourage them to elaborate on their answers and provide example as well. Ask open-ended question. As we have already discussed that using of open-ended question will ensure that the participant is sharing their perspective, their experience and insight in their own words. So it will avoid leading or biasing, and it will not influence the response. It will So there will be avoidance to leading or biasing, which usually tend to influence the response given by the participant. Probing. So using probing technique to develop a deeper into specific topic or clarifying responses and asking of the follow-up question to explore the interesting points raised by your participants. Then respect the silence. So allow for a moment of silence to give participants some time so that they can reflect on their own response and gather their thoughts. Avoid rushing to fill the silence, and as it may also influence the participant to provide a more, as filling up the silence or rushing towards can influence the participant to keep their responses restricted. So to encourage the participant to provide more thoughtful answer, we need to respect the silence. Then maintaining neutrality. So maintain a neutral and a non-judgmental stand throughout the interview to encourage the honest and openness from the participant. We can avoid expressing our personal opinions or judgments. Record and transcribe. So, recording the interview with the participants' consent is to ensure the accurate capture of their responses, taking notes as needed to supplement the recordings, and transcribing the interview recordings by capturing all the conversation for your analysis. Now, analyze the data. So, analyzing the interview data using a qualitative analysis technique such as content analysis or identify the patterns, the themes, and the insights that emerge from the interviews. Triangulation. So considering using multiple data source and methods to triangulate finding and enhance the validity and reliability of the study, and ethical consideration. So adhering to ethical guidelines throughout the interview process is also important, including obtaining the information informed consent and protecting the participants confidentiality and ensuring the volunteer participation. So by following all these steps and techniques in an interview, a researcher can conduct an effective interview for its data collection, and they can gather a valuable insight and perspective to inform their research findings and contribute to the knowledge in their field. Now, overview of each of these data collection methods. First, observation. So observation involves systemic watching and recording of the behavior, the event, the phenomena in natural or maybe in a controlled settings without directly interacting with the participant. So this method, the researchers will observe and document the behavior and interaction or occurrence as they naturally unfolds, often using some structure observation protocols or a checklist to guide the data collection. So observation will allow the researchers to study the behavior in a real world context and providing a first handed information and insight into a natural setting. So it is particularly useful for studying of non-verbal behavior or situations where self-report data may be unrealistic or biased. But observed biases and subjectivity may influence the data collection. So observers may influence their behavior on the participants by observing, and also observation is a time consuming or logically challenging method of data collection. Then case study. So case study is in-depth examination of a single individual or a group or a phenomena within its real life context. So case study will involve collecting and analyzing multiple sources of data to provide a comprehensive understanding of the case. So researcher will collect the data through various methods, including interviews, observation, document analysis, and other records. And the data are analyzed qualitatively to identify the patterns, the themes, the insights. So case study will allow for a detailed exploration and analysis of the complex phenomena within their natural context. So they will provide rich and content, and they will facilitate the exploration of the unique and unusual cases. But case studies are often limited to their generalizability, and they may not be representative of a broader population or a broader context, and they can require a careful attention to validity and reliability, and findings may be subject to interpretations. So next, field study. So field study will involve conducting of the research in a real world setting, such as natural environment, organization, in a community, or maybe in a cultural context. So the field study will aim to understand and describe the phenomena as they occur naturally in their everyday context. And the researchers the researchers will immense themselves in the field, and they will collect the data through direct observations, interviews, maybe surveys, or other methods also. So the field notes, the audio visual recording, or the photographs may be used to document that observation. So the field study will allow the researcher to study the phenomena in their natural environment. They will provide some insight into the real life behaviors, interactions, and experiences. They will also facilitate the exploration of the complex dynamics uh, and rich phenomena. But the field study may be a time consuming process and a resource intensive process. It will require a lot of planning, logical supports, and researcher may encounter challenges related to accessing ethical and managing of their role as an participant observer. Next, experimental method. So experimental research will involve manipulating one or the more variables and then measuring their effect on other variables under a control condition. So experimental design will allow the researchers to establish cause and effect relationship between the variables. So researchers will randomly assign some participants to experimental and a control group, and they can manipulate the individual variable. So they can manipulate the independent variable and they can measure the effect on the dependent variable. So experimental design may include some pre-test, post-test, or between groups and within group design, but they will allow the researcher to test the hypothesis, control for confounding variables, and establish causal relationships between the variables. It will also provide stronger internal validity, and it can be used to make predictions and test the interventions. So but the experimental research may lack some ecological validity, or finding may not be generalized to the real world setting, and it may be challenging to manipulate certain variables or to control for some potential confounds. But ethical consideration may also be limited in this type of experiment, in the type of experiments that can be conducted. So each of these data collection methods will offer you unique strength, unique advantages, and they will also have some limitations, and the choice of method will depend on the research objective, the study that you're designing, and the nature of the phenomena you are investigating. So researchers should carefully consider the appropriate method that they are using to collect high quality data that effectively will address their research questions and their research problems.
Thank you everyone for your patient ears. If you'll find this video useful, then do hit the like button. Also share it with your friends so that they get benefit with this video. And I'll see you for the next one.